I'm running the ship tonight, people. So we'll see how this goes. I'm sure Dustin will probably has some chat bot set up to post a question.
Yeah, it's going to be sad
37
watching
seconds.
fall behind in chat. That's going to suck watching that.
So, yeah, what's going on, YouTube people? We are here for a little post-national live stream. This was Steve and Michael Ham's idea, and they are nowhere to be seen. So, it's Dusty Buns and I.
Pretty much sums up my national experience with Steve and Mike.
Oh, shots fired out the gate.
Right,
shots fired out the gate. I guess we didn't all see enough of each other at hanging out for 5 straight days in the Midwest that we all had to get together on a live stream literally one day later. What's going on, chat? We got Oak, we got Rip, we got Marvel, we got Jenks, we got Spurs, we got Spokane. We are co-streaming, except I am captain of this ship. So let's see. We've all done like 65 national hot take videos.
Yeah. I will say this year, I've never seen more national footage from all the channels. You know, like I've never seen more of it than this year.
Yeah, you could tell people are getting more production on the go, I guess I'll say. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people would wait until they got back. So it would more trickle in. And you're seeing a lot more like, here's what I did the first 4 hours on the show floor today.
I thought what was funny too is like Card Ladder never posts videos. They post like once a year at the National or whatever. Like it's like Mint Collective and then the National. And they did something where they were posting like every couple of hours, which is really funny. Like high production, you know, meet up with this Jordan collector or this whatever collector. I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, you're right. Like there's just a bunch of folks that were kind of reacting to the show and doing kind of the walkthroughs and all that. It's cool though. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's cool, but I just noticed it was way more volume than what I remember from last year.
Yeah. What's up, Lyman? You should have said something. I don't think I remember people saying hello to me, but I don't specifically remember. I mean, you might have said hello, but I probably didn't know who you were. You should have made a point to just sneak on in there. Yeah. Zuki Tom, I know I talked to him on the show floor for a hot minute.
Andy was at the Filmingtons thing, sitting down. So you probably met him there.
You seem to pick up quite a bit of stuff for seemingly being home about going to the National this year. It wasn't that I wasn't excited about going. It's just I wasn't exactly sure what I was looking for. And I literally just happened to run in the cards that were like right up my wheelhouse. You know, Star Wars Stellar Autos, Rosario Dawson was like a card that was on the top of my list. I just didn't necessarily expect to see it at the National. And that Stone Cold Steve Austin auto is something I've been looking at for a while. And then, you know, I lucked into some Cleveland guys and kind of that Ghost Spider fell into my lap. Those X-Men boxes fell into my lap. I got those on display back there. So yeah, it was a good for not having a plan. I feel pretty good about the way my stuff picked up. I see Hambone in the background. If you're good to go, Hambone, give me a thumbs up. He gives me a peace sign, not a thumbs up. I don't know what that means. There's a thumbs up. What's up?
I only saw a couple.
Hey, now we're PC friendly here.
There's only
that was just my fingers. It looked worse than what it was.
Sure.
If there was only a couple of tables I saw. Granted, I didn't see probably half the show, but a couple of tables with Stranger Things cards. I think I might have all of the Stranger Things cards that there are, like the graded copies. I really think that there was only like Slab Stocks. Aaron is the only other guy I saw with stuff there, and so
I did see his stuff.
If that stuff pops off, guys, and you notice all of a sudden I'm driving a Rolls Royce and my kids all have like platinum grills that they're like, you know, wearing to school or whatever, then you know what happened. But no, I was on the search. It was funny. You guys actually saw, I can't remember who texted me, but
Pam, I think, saw the triple auto.
Yeah, there was like a bunch of like sealed product, and then just like placed in the middle of it was a $7,500 triple auto Stranger Things card. Well, that's they were asking for it. It's a rare card, but 7,500 is a huge ask, obviously.
Yeah, when I originally asked them, you know, how much they wanted for it, they said they're just open to an offer. So they just put 7,500 on it, and we're just wheeling and dealing, waiting to see what somebody would offer.
It's kind of like what everyone's doing on eBay with that stuff. I mean, there's just huge bins on that, on all of it. You know, they're just like, you know, I don't want to get caught. Like if it gets hot or something. So everyone's just got the giant bin on it.
Well, aren't they getting ready to release another box of that stuff?
Yeah, they had a new set that had popped up that we didn't know anything about. Just kind of happened. They had it at the National. Those like Fright Night boxes, which was cool. I didn't realize this, but it's based off of a 1988 set. So there's like And the only reason why I know that is because I actually saw like one of the big like Steel City had boxes of the 1988 Fright Night set, and it would like look similar to that Stranger Things set. So yeah, they've got that, and then in a couple weeks they've got the hobby boxes for season 4 coming out.
I am in charge of the chat tonight. Chat's asking, please God, not Dustin in charge of chat. Steve, if you're good to go in the background, since give me a signal, give me a sign. He picked his nose. I think that means he's good. Okay. This was your idea, Steve, and you're the last one here. What the hell?
Oh,
there he is.
I had to work. Let's see here.
Jeez.
Shit.
Thought you were waiting on that chicken to come out of the kitchen at Carmine's.
Oh no. Let's see.
And Steve's
what did I miss?
internet's already laggy.
Nothing important.
That's a really nice hat you have there, Steve. I like that. I like that hat.
That is a nice hat, Steve.
Well, did you know there's a dress code? We have a dress code for this evening.
You know what's funny is I showed that hat to my wife, and she's like, "Is that a Chippendales logo?"
Exactly.
Steve, your internet sucks.
Edit my title later. Huh? I'm not talking. I'm just doing something else.
I know, but your mouth and your sounds coming out of it don't match up, and you're like a little.
Does it match now? Look, nope. I'll switch over to my phone if I can.
Yeah,
I had to jump to my phone because my internet's horrible today.
On
How
my
many live streams in a row are you going to connect with your home internet? That only
it's matching on my screen. Hold on.
He just wants to dual stream two Steves.
I'm not
Ethernet
corporate Steve for this. I didn't put my Ethernet cable in for this one, so I might be choppy too.
No, you're actually running pretty strong, Dustin.
For now, we'll see.
Am I still
I didn't run. Dustin's running 720.
Is it still running bad?
Yeah, you still.
We're about to
got a good delay.
2 Steves about to pop up on the screen.
Yeah.
I won't let the other one in.
All right, we're going to go on here then. Let me see. Neo text messaged me the link. Who text messages the link?
I DM'd it to you on IG too. I needed to get it to Ham.
Oh, you did?
I sent it both ways.
You can send it to me on IG. I ended up copying it to Dustin and then trying to jump off of it from there. But for some reason, my internet at home is god awful today. I'm running at 6 megabytes per second up and down. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
What's up with the internet being all screwed up? It's 2023. Is this like how the aliens finally get us? Like everyone's internet all of a sudden is like 1995?
Chat's asking, we'll go. I'll throw this to Dustin first. Was the show too big?
No, I don't think it was too big. But it was a spectacle for sure. I mean, it was a spectacle. I didn't realize how it was halfway through the show before I realized I hadn't seen 1 or 2 rooms that were hidden in the back somewhere. And I think it was the same for you guys.
So which version of me do you have in right now? I'm sorry. The phone version or the camera version?
It hasn't changed.
I don't see you. You didn't join the room on your phone. I don't see you in the background to add.
Oh. Okay.
What about you, Hambone? Too big or just right?
If you're going for one day, too big, not possible. I mean, we were there for 5 days basically, and we didn't even notice that other section until the last. I don't. That's too much, Steve.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's Steve's first time. All right, there we go. There's a new one now. Okay, now
there we go. Yeah,
this is corporate Steve. We brought in corporate Steve.
Yeah, Steve went poltergeist on us.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Steve. Now he's taking his headphones off. Are you good, Steve, or not? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Show too big or just right?
Hey, just don't kick my other self out of the backstage so I can read the comments.
Oh, I already did that.
Yeah, I know.
I'm running the show tonight. You're going to be fine with comments. What show too big or just right?
Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, like Michael Ham says, depends on how long you're going. There was actually a room we didn't even discover until our final day there, like the last hour. It was really big, really a lot of walking. Definitely comfortable shoes. I made the mistake of not wearing comfortable shoes one day.
You should have watched some pre-national videos. I heard that was a hot tip.
Well, I thought the shoes were comfortable, but they weren't comfortable enough for the amount of walking.
So people were asking about next year in Cleveland. So I don't know that what the square footage different is, or area different is, but Cleveland will be better laid out. They already released the map. I tweeted it out and posted it on IG. Things will be much better laid out. It's just the IX Center, if you've ever been there, is just literally one massive airplane hangar, is essentially what it is. It's just a huge ass square building with very high ceilings. They have a Ferris wheel in there, at least they used to. So it's just one huge building. Everything's laid out very, very nicely, or at least it appears to be. That was I don't think it was too big. I just think that the show floor was very poorly laid out. Like, you had two corporate areas. Not all the grading companies were together. There was that. I assume the room you guys were talking about, you discovered on the second day, was like back where TriStar was. Like,
yeah, back there by the water.
I didn't realize we're back there. Which, I guess, I didn't realize this. That was the main entrance for general admission. That's where general admission came in.
Well, I came in general admission the first day, and I didn't see any of that. Like, when I got down from general admission, I just felt like all of a sudden, all I saw was Beckett. Like, that's where I was. But I mean, after that, you know, me and Steve, we sold out, went corporate. We were able to walk through any door we wanted to, and so we would just pick whichever side we were going to basically frequent first, and then go from there.
I could not imagine doing just one day at the National and trying to take it all in.
Yeah, Anthony was the guy sitting with us at lunch.
Yeah. I just, especially if you were trying to get anything else done, like if you were trying to get Rapper Redemption packs or do anything with grading or anything like that, I don't know how you could see that show floor all in one day, especially Thursday and Friday, because it was hard really just to get up the tables. Like, you kind of almost had to like hop in line and just kind of go with the flow down a row if you wanted to look in showcases a lot of the days, let alone if you're the type of guy that wants to, or girl that wants to dig through like value boxes and stuff. I didn't touch a single like 2-row or anything like that other than looking in showcases. I just don't know how you'd see that building in one day, or the people that said that they saw the whole thing in one day. I don't know what they were doing to get that done. It was nearly impossible.
Also, I don't think that it was like, I know that like the AC wasn't great Thursday, Friday. I wasn't there Wednesday, but I feel like people were making, like, giving the impression that everybody was like almost dying, like sweating, and people were about to pass out. It wasn't that hot to me anyway. I mean, it was warm in there, but there was like 100,000 people in there. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't, to me, I didn't see anybody like, you know, about to fall out from the AC. I get it was a little bit warm, but
people were saying the AC was broken. It wasn't broken. It just couldn't keep up with the demand of people in there is really all it was.
Yeah,
Wednesday was bad because people were still setting up, so the doors were open.
Yeah, so the garage door was open. Yeah, that was like that 2 years ago when we were there. Same thing.
Saturday was nice. I thought Saturday it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't 60 degrees in there, but it was perfectly comfortable in there on Saturday. And I heard Sunday was dead.
Sunday was dead, and it was very cold, and it was very nice.
Oh yeah, you two guys went in on Sunday. Were people fire selling on Sunday morning?
I didn't notice it, but people were still selling a bunch of stuff. It was from a relaxing standpoint of getting to walk around and just kind of enjoy it and see stuff. Sunday was the best day, but you had vendors already starting to shut down. And you could definitely tell it was winding down. Some people didn't even show up for the last day. So you do get that disadvantage, because I think your big days are definitely your Friday, Saturday, especially anything vendor driven by any of the big companies. That's when they really turn it on. That's when they, you know, what I like to go for, a lot of the giveaways, the entries, stuff like that for the daily stuff. And I noticed that Friday, Saturday was the biggest impact for those vendors and doing those things.
Yeah, it seems like the feedback just on social and stuff is that dealers had good shows.
Yeah,
like the cash it wasn't just that it was busy, that cash was indeed moving.
It also seemed to me like I saw a comment like Andy was talking about the layout in there. To me, if I remember correctly, like it seemed like the layout was the same 2 years ago as far as like where the corporate booths were kind of in the normal part. Where it was a hodgepodge is where they added that extra space, that extra 200,000 square feet. You could tell that they were just filling in the space the best that they could. And there's a huge wait list. So I'm sure there was a bunch of like random, you know, there was big corporates, and that's how it was. There was like what was that, like Heroes for something? Did you see that massive, like beautiful booth?
Yeah.
I was talking to the Beckett guys, and I'm like, what is this company that has like a $60,000 booth that I've never heard of before in my life?
Yeah, you could tell they kind of just like threw everybody in on that new floor space that they had. It was definitely a hodgepodge.
Yeah, I did whatever. They had a thing where you just basically post an Instagram photo with you and that big bobblehead figure they had, and you had a chance to win some 100,000 points or whatever. I don't even know what it was. I was like, it's free. I'm in. I'm going to do it. But it looked very kid friendly, at least.
Yeah, you could see how some of the corporate had gotten scattered out. Then there were dealer tables again behind it. Yeah, it was like that one room was just kind of like, okay, who do we have left over to throw in here? Hopefully,
I randomly found a Captain 37 like way back there somewhere, in that new space, like what you're saying.
Yeah, the disappointing thing to me was there was no like interactive live map or any live map that will help you dictate where you were in the show. I'm really good with direction, but after a good day and a half, I had pretty much where I needed to be figured out and where I was going. But it was really hard to find somebody, especially if you're trying to figure out just a table number. It was just all over the place. The signage was horrible. They'd say idle 100, but nothing was under 200 on the show, and you were technically in the 1100 section. So yeah. it was not laid out well from being able to find anything you were actually looking for if you were looking for a table with a number.
I don't know that I necessarily agree with Bargain Boxer's comment here. Having two rooms sucks seems like only reason for extra room was just corporate and breakers and not for dealers. I mean, there's always been a huge breaker pavilion. It just moved. The breaker pavilion kind of broke up the old section of the National with the new section of the National that they expanded out. So you kind of had to walk through the breakers pavilion to get over to the other side. But the breakers pavilion seemed like it was about the same size as it was in previous years. It actually seemed a little bit smaller than it was in AC. The breakers area in Atlantic City was massive.
Yeah,
I thought that was actually bigger.
You couldn't hear. I remember in AC there being like vintage tables right across from the breaker pavilion, and you could hear, and like all you could hear over there is like the massive hit screams and the passing out, and all the like, we just got a napkin patch. Everybody freaking out. I didn't hear that like one time while I was in there. I don't know if it was all the commotion of just everything, people talking mixed with, the booths and all that stuff. But I didn't hear all the yelling and the wildness from the breakers at all. I mean,
I did on Saturday.
Oh, you did?
That was one. Yeah, that was one thing I actually highlighted in one of my videos was that Saturday's crowd felt smaller, but it was louder in there. Like, yeah. I don't know if it was more people talking, if it was a younger, louder crowd, but the Breakers Pavilion was noisy. And so was the redemption area for like the packs. That was around the Panini and Dave and Adams booth there at the end. I guess they were opening packs and people were cheering and things like that. And then the Breakers Pavilion had people yelling for stuff, almost fraternity frat style party like. So yeah, and that typically the only day that I really noticed that it did stick out was on Saturday.
Ham, did you win any cards from Tag?
So what was interesting with Tag, I won 2 cards actually. If you went to the booth that was in the center, they had the grading section where it showed you their entire grading setup and the cards they were grading online, which kind of looked like a giant time capsule with everybody in there. And then if you went to the main show floor, they had a section there and you would go up and you could feel a slab, they'd show you the rundown, but you could basically, they would show an image of a card that was grayed out and you would basically, it would be like a 52 mantle, let's say. It'd be shaded out, but where you could still tell what it is. If you got 4 of the 5 right, they would let you grab a tag slab that was obviously in their black packaging that they use. And you could do that daily. So I went the 2 main days they were doing it, which was Friday and Saturday. Ended up with 2 tag graded cards, one a Jason Robertson rookie that was an 8.5, and then a 2023 Topps Mookie Betts that was a 10. So for a company to give out a free slab, no other graded company was giving out free slabs for playing a game that they were letting everybody join in to make sure everybody won.
I thought I talked about this in my video tomorrow. I kind of did like put a bow on it, national video for tomorrow. And I talked about grading a little bit. It seemed like the big 4, all 4 seemed like they had good shows from like a third party, just like walking by. it was kind of one of the things that I kept in the back of my head, was kind of peeking in on their booths, on the various companies' booths as I rolled past them throughout times of the day. Like SGC's booth, busy. PSA's booth, busy. Beckett's booth, busy. CGC's booth, busy. I know Steve and I both graded with CGC. Steve, you graded with Beckett. I don't think, Dustin, did you do any on-site grading at all?
I did not. No.
Ham, did you do any on-site grading at all? Okay.
No.
CGC, once again, I talk about this tomorrow, but I thought, Steve, I thought that experience was somewhat pleasant and easy. Like, they had the terminal or the computer set up. You just kind of walked up. If there was a line, you queued and they texted you to come back. Like, it seemed pretty simplistic. Like, you didn't have to wait in line at all because of the system that they were running. Were you able to walk right up, or did you have to queue in and then come back?
No, I was able to walk. I was able to walk right up, and that was kind of the case with all. Well, I did all my submissions on the same day, and I went to Beckett first because they tend to get the longest line quickly, but we were in early before the public, so I was able to go right up there then, and then I went to SGC, and okay, so Beckett still has the paper forms. You're still filling everything out by hand over there at Beckett with a piece of paper and a pen and, white, yellow, pink copies. Okay, so you're filling everything out there at the counter. Then I head over to SGC. One thing that I would like to note about SGC is I felt like they were getting a lot of new business. When I was around, and they had the little laptop set up, when I was around, there was people coming up and saying, I've never graded a card before, because they would ask them, do you have an account to log in? They'd be like, no, I've never graded at all. I have no experience in grading. And the demographic of this was like older gentlemen. I mean, I'm not young, but I mean, people like in their 60s, just, 65. Typically the type of people that you think wouldn't be grading their cards because they've just had them forever and they don't care. But that was the feeling that I was getting. So it kind of seemed good for SGC. It seemed like they were developing some new customers. I saw at least 3 firsthand while I was up there that came up with their cards. And like, I've never submitted a card before. This is the first time I'm submitting a card, and it's with you guys, but I need help with the process. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have an account. And then at CGC, it was the same thing. They had nice laptops. They had a nice layout. They probably had the best layout out of everybody as far as places to sit. They had a nice little stage. They had people out there doing content like cameramen and stuff and asking people to show them their cards and stuff like that. So they had a really nice little setup and a pretty good area where you could go and pick your cards up when they were returned. And that was my first time ever submitting with them. So, yeah, but I will say the customer service at every booth I went to was very good. Everybody was really helpful. Everybody, was pleasant. Answering your questions, whatever you needed. That goes to show me that it's competition out there. And that's something we always talked about. We're always like, man, we need competition in the grading space. PSA is killing everybody. And it was almost like killing with kindness this weekend, I felt like, with my experience at the grading companies. It was all pleasant. I was pleased with all my interactions at the grading booths that I went to.
I think it shows too that all 4 of them can really eat. Like, I think all 4 of those companies can win. I mean, like we've talked about, like all the other 3 companies, they don't have PSA's overhead. They don't need to grade 1 million cards a month. I mean, it's just different. So it's kind of nice to see that you've got competition among all of them, and that it looked like they were all doing pretty well.
Yeah, I think part of the reason Beckett always looks so busy is because I do think that their line moved a little bit slower because they had the paper forms and they didn't have. I know PSA used a virtual queue system. CGC used a virtual queue system. I don't know if SGC did or not. I know they had laptops everywhere in their booth. I didn't poke around that hard there to see exactly what they were running. But Beckett, it was still the wait in line and stand there. I do think they need to do a much better job at that going forward. I know I talked to them at the Beckett event I was at on Friday. I was like, guys, come on, queue this thing. There's a better way here. The other thing too is that Topps has to figure out a better way to handle the Rapper Redemption packs. That was an absolute mess. I know Ham and I hung out in line for a while on was that Thursday morning? I think we were both in line.
That was Thursday.
Yeah, that was I don't know what the system is there, but they got to figure out.
And I noticed this with a lot of the other vendors when I was bouncing around, just working off all the free giveaways and stuff like that. a lot of people didn't start any of those giveaways until 11 every day. So I don't know what the process or thought process behind that is, because like you don't want to go there to try and get these wrapper redemptions, have to wait 2 hours in line and waste part of your day just to get one part of an experience out of the way that you feel like you need to experience. And once everybody gets in there, especially like Panini line and the top lines, those things just wrap around so far, so long that it makes it hard to walk through those sections of the aisles to kind of look at all the vendors. You know, V Friends, Gary V's thing, that was busy the whole time. I mean, and then Jeff Wilson's area with all the kids, busy the whole time. Those two sections were always packed, and like it's just hard to move around. It's hard to understand what people are standing in line for. I thought Wildcard did a good job with their giveaway with the wheel spin every day. Again, started at 11. They moved it pretty quick, but when you get 100, 200 people in line, by the time most places would stop doing all their things at 2 o'clock, like shut off, and then they're not picking it back up. And if they are, it's for like an hour and that's it. And they don't really tell you when they're going to start again. So my thing too is like when I went in, I didn't know eBay was doing their Zion case hidden thing around the building. Otherwise, me and Steve would have went hunting for Zion cases when we got there, because each Zion case contained a key rookie card of main people, including a Jordan, Peyton, Magic, Bird. So each case was associated with a rookie card, and they hid 10 of them. I didn't even know that was happening. Like I didn't see any advertising on it or anything. So I think a lot of things too is not knowing what's going on at the show for vendors isn't easily out there if you're not following everything they do on social media. And it would just be nice if maybe on the national website you could look at vendors and then look at daily giveaways or events that they're specifically given in a group, versus me having to individually have to go out to every single company and try and figure it out.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you had any sort of creative idea, I mean, like it wasn't getting out to the people. I mean, it was like, I guess the people that walked up to the booth. I mean, I guess there's enough traffic to where maybe you don't need a lot of marketing and hopefully enough people stop by or whatever, but so much competition there. I feel like you really have to work your booth there. That's what kind of struck me. You know, there's some people where they're just kind of sitting back. Now, granted, if you're kind of running a museum type table where you're not really looking to sell a whole lot, you're maybe a long time vendor that's more there. If you sell something great, but you're really just there to run kind of a museum and not sell a whole lot, then maybe you don't care. But man, I feel like, you know, the booths that really kind of got out front of their tables and were talking to people in social with customers probably did really well.
I don't think any of us lost 10 pounds. Dinner at Carmine's probably added about 20 pounds on at least me, Steve.
It's so funny. I weighed in today at work, and I'm the exact amount of weight that when I left.
I was going to say, if they lost 10, I found all 30 of it.
I was walking 20 to 25,000 steps.
Oh, no, not a train. Am I able to?
He has to beat that.
The chicken parm from Carmine's I ate off of Saturday night and twice on Sunday, and I still had some left.
Yeah, that was a thin Chicago crust pizza you ate, is what it was.
The repack guys were buying a ton. Dustin has finally come around and agrees with me on something. I heard your video earlier today. So now that you've actually seen it firsthand, the line at Hit Parade with them just like going like this with cash.
Especially when you think about like, okay, dealers are going to give you 65, 70, 75%. And then Hit Parade is giving out 85. I had another guy that was like, they were giving me 90. And it's like, well, then that's why everybody's going to them. I mean, why would you go to the dealers? You should just go to Hit Parade or whatever. Yeah. Go to Brian Gray. You know, I know he's got a repack product. You know, I mean,
it's almost not worth trying to go to the dealers in that show to try and trade. Almost every showcase starts at $1,000 and goes up to 50, 80K cards. And I think that's where, like Neil, you're saying you didn't really get to go through any boxes. I only went through a few, but the couple I went through, there were fantastic cards in there. So it's almost like all those $20 to $100 cards are just sitting in 2, 3, 4, 5 row boxes. They're not in the actual showcase, which is disappointing because the majority of the people there, you're already spending a bunch of money to be there and do that. I know there's big time money that people spend, but I just feel like there's a lot of card rich people that are cash poor, and they're just waiting to assume this one lucky person is going to come up and give them $25,000 for an $8,000 card. That's how it feels, at least when I'm going through the showcases and looking.
Well, and if you think about, there's a lot of talk about junk slab era, and PSA is grading 1 million cards a month, and all the other grading companies grade. Like there's never been more grading than there has been now. Like there's just never been in the history of cards. So how are folks going to be able to sell all the $10, $20 slabs, $30 slabs? And the answer is obviously the repack, program. I mean, and what kind of floored me was I just didn't realize that they were that popular. I obviously I know about repacks. I just didn't realize the demand was so high, for those to where they could ingest, that much product. I mean, that much inventory of slabs.
Yeah. When I flew back from Tampa, I had there was at least 100 Tampa guys there that I knew from all the shows here. And a lot of them were buying for Whatnot. They were filling 3 rows to bring back with them for Whatnot. And every single one of them were like, I had a great show. I picked up a ton of stuff. I'm going to do great. Because they were going through the cheap row, 3-row boxes that had nice cards in it and grouping up and getting a discount. And then they're just going to go, burn it on their Whatnot and make tons of money. So it was a great show if you were going to buy that type of stuff. But again, there's so many high-end, and really nice cards, and then cards that have zero comp because they're one of kinds. It's just almost like it becomes monotonous that, oh, nice card, $35,000. I'm like, okay. I mean, who needs to have that for $35,000 when there's the one next to it for $25 that are in the same case? Is it better than the one you're asking $35 for? So I don't know. My brain, the way I'm processed and look at it, I just don't get some of the pricing structure that goes on with some of these people. I know it's the big show. You're looking for the big money, but a lot of people that go there do not have that type of money. So it's just like, and then the not for sale cards drives me nuts. Don't put it in the case, please. Just don't.
Did anyone spend any time at the Leaf booth? The only thing I know that they were doing was the Pete Weber impersonation thing where you could like try to do the thing to win the card or whatever. Dustin, I assume you entered like that 17 times.
I'm so mad at myself. I completely forgot that Pete Weber was at that booth, and I walked past it like 5 times while I was there. And then I saw all these like IG reels of people like pretending to be Pete Weber while he was, and I'm like, oh my God.
Well, that was the contest. Whoever did it the best won something.
I would have totally done it. And I can't believe that I forgot that Pete Weber was there at that booth. That's the one big regret of all the what's the big regret from the show is that I missed that. Cause I had it all like planned out in my head.
I would have figured it.
If that was yours, Ham, was there one thing that you're like, damn man, I really wish I would have carved out a little bit more time to see X, Y, or Z thing?
I think if I go when it's in Cleveland, the first day is going to definitely be making sure I understand the layout and knowing what's going on already with, again, I like the giveaways, I like the interaction with the bigger vendors that I can't go to any other event or show and see them. And if I do, it's 1 or 2. And then get the excitement from this. I even like watching other people win things. That sounds weird. Pristine auction every day. At 1, it was at 1 and 4. They do a giveaway. You have to be live to be there. It's a raffle ticket. By the way, if you're there on Sunday, 1 and 4 Pristine, it's you and 10 other people. I mean, your odds are great. But I think it would be better for me to get a little bit ahead of the things I'd be interested in trying to be a part of for the giveaways and, fun little stuff like that. Almost like if I was at a amusement park for sports cards. And then after that, I would try and just figure out which booths do I want to hit to either go say hi to people that I follow, I like, might have a different event going on and trying to do that. But like even with the events at night, I would like to go to Mike's trade night, but we were also trying to deal with the card collector 2 thing, so it's like, it's too much stuff going on at one time that you have to pick and choose. And it makes it very, very difficult, at least from my standpoint, from being there the entire show.
Steve, is there? I asked for one thing. Ham gave me 17. Steve, is there 1 or 2 things that that you like in hindsight, looking back at this show, that you're like, damn, I missed this, or maybe it was that other room that you guys didn't discover till the last hour, or just anything after hours?
Well, for me, it's nothing related to the show. For me, it's just related to the area. Like, I wish I would have been able to get out more and do things in the area. I was invited to go to a concert. There was another free concert in the park that was a Pink Floyd tribute, and I love Pink Floyd, but I had to miss out on that because of a trade night. So yeah, just some of the surrounding things. I would have liked to gotten out and seen more of the city and enjoyed some of the things that had going on. And going there, that was my initial plan. But then with that show just being so big, and it is somewhat business oriented for me, because I do go there to make some money and have a good time while I do it. And that has to be done at the trade nights because, like we talked about earlier, the dealers aren't paying strong. I guess you could go to the repack booths, but you tend to do well selling, better selling to people at trade nights than you do in the showroom. So I had to pick and choose, do I go with Ryan and Paul, Ryan from Breakout Cards, the Avenged Sevenfold concert, or do I go to the Lowe's trade night where I have the potential to make myself some money?
Or a 24-hour dinner.
Right. So that, it just things were just really overlapping. And even though I would have rather had gone to the concert, I went to the trade night. It worked out for me, but that's just it for me, is not having enough time to see the surrounding area. I may never get back to Chicago again, and people may be like, well, there's nothing to see in Chicago. Chicago sucks. I don't know that. Maybe that's fair, but just like when we go to Cleveland, I would like to see things out there. Like you said, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Football Hall of Fame and things like that. Am I going to be able to squeeze that in there, or am I just going to have to take a couple extra days before or after the show starts to see that stuff?
That's a good point. Actually, I would like to go to Canton. So maybe we go, I come a day early or something. Cause that's always been on the bucket list. It's like, how far away is that from Cleveland?
Just under an hour from the IX Center.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. So I'll probably maybe I'll take off like Tuesday through and just try to go through there.
That would be something like, so say you came into town Tuesday night, you could knock that out Wednesday morning.
Right.
Like, you don't need like a 12-hour day to go to the Football Hall of Fame. I mean, if you're going to read every little plaque and everything, if you just want to get in and kind of move through it, you could do it in a few hours for sure. So plus an hour down and an hour back to Cleveland.
It won't take me very long to go through all the New Orleans Saints Hall of Famers. It'll be a pretty quick walk through, and then I'll head out.
And see, the people in the comments are already telling me how awesome Chicago is, and now I'm kicking myself in the ass even more now, because this is 2 times now. And last 2 years ago when we went, I wanted to spend that last day taking like a river tour and seeing the architecture and things like that. Couldn't get anybody to go with me. That was the day we busted the 89 Pro set. But yeah, so now that's twice that I've missed out. So we'll see what happens in two more years, I guess.
It was really hot in Chicago this year too.
Saturday was
nice. Yeah, but on the same time though, Steve, I thought you kind of really nailed it in one of your videos. You were talking about like, and even when we were at the show on Wednesday, you were like, I got to pace myself, man. I'm slowing down a little bit. I don't want to do, 14 hours of cards wall to wall. And then, we were all sitting at lunch on Saturday and we're like, shit, man, we got like 6 hours left and this thing's like over, like we're done. And I don't want it to be over yet.
Yeah.
Even though 3 days earlier, we're like, okay, we got to like take this slow. And then, I don't know when you have time to, squeeze in something out of the city. I mean, you can make it if you want it, but then if you did that, you'd probably just have FOMO about missing out something on the.
Yeah, and like that first Wednesday, I had worked I hadn't worked Tuesday, but I had done a bunch of stuff Tuesday, flew out, traveled all day Wednesday, and then got there, went to the show. It was hot, sweaty, crowded. Wednesday was crowded too. And
it was.
Got back and I was just like ham. I was like, we're here all the way till Saturday. I'm like, we're going to get show fatigue, man. It's overkill. And then you're right. Come Saturday, I was like, damn, I should have flew out Sunday night or Monday morning. I was like, I should have saved myself this last day. After that, it was just a blur. And with that being said, that was my best card show experience, was this national. It beat the 2022 national in Atlantic City. It beat the 2021 national in Chicago. It beat Culture Collision in Atlanta. Yes, I set up as a dealer, and that was an amazing experience. But besides that,
in terms
even
of
that first Dallas show
around, are you talking about just like all around experience, or based on selling cards, or what?
The most fun I had.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was the most fun. And I didn't take my Pelican case with me hardly to the show except for one day. And it just I just enjoyed it more. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a little more experienced on the show scene. The people made it great. You know, not just my friends like you guys, but people from the comments like made it great. And I spent a lot of time talking to people, and that was some of the highlights of my trip. It was just so fun. Like that last day, I remember not regretting being there a single time. I even almost got my flight changed to Sunday night. I was talking to Ham that morning, but I did want to come home. I did miss my family and things, but I had a blast.
It was be difficult for me to compare this one to the first Chicago National, but they'd be very close together. The first Chicago National, I agree with you. I think overall I had more fun at this show than the first Chicago National 2 years ago. But there is kind of something about that one being like the first one, and that one felt a little crazier. And it was also kind of like the first real thing post-COVID.
Yeah.
You know, and like that was the first show that I met a lot of people that I talked to online in person. So there was like that first, you know, oh, I got to meet this person for the first time finally, or that person, or it was the first real social interaction after being in lockdown for 2 years. So there is something to be said for that. But I think I agree with you, Steve. I think this one hit a little bit better than the one 2 years ago, but I think it's a little closer for me.
You know, I had Dallas in there before you had.
Yeah, I didn't have that. You guys had that Dallas thing. I didn't have
we had
that.
Dallas. We had Dallas in there, so that first Dallas was like a mini national, from what I understand. A mini national now, thinking on the terms of the scale of what the national has scaled up to, but that Dallas show was pretty much the icebreaker. The first show I ever went to after starting doing content, the first big show I had been to since a small Philly show before everything had shut down. So I had Dallas to kind of get me prepared for that national. Now that first national was overwhelming and big and like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? But this national even trumped that. I mean, it took me 3 days to even figure out how to navigate around the building. So
yeah. Ziggy asks, what's next for each of you? So I'll take this one first, then we'll go Dustin, Ham, Steve. For me, the next big travel show, well, in between, I'm debating on Shipshewana on Labor Day weekend. And then after that, my next major one will be New York City Comic Con in October. I'm not going to Dallas or Burbank. Maybe Chantilly if the schedule worked out correctly. I've always wanted to go to that show. But New York City Comic Con is I'm 100% locked in for, and Shipshewana on Labor Day weekend are the next two that are on my radar. Dustin, do you have anything that you know of that on the large, like a non-Raleigh show?
I wasn't planning on doing anything for the rest of the year. And then Kim, my wife, actually was like, hey, do you want to go to Burbank? Like, if you really want to go, because we were talking actually, Mark, Ultimate Pastime, really good dude. He's in LA. I was talking to a few people that I know that are out there. And, you know, she was like, if you want to go to that show, maybe you can, you know, just make a long weekend out of it. I just don't know, though. We have a lot of stuff going on here at the house right now. Kim's grandparents are 92 and they both just moved down from Ohio like 2 days ago while we were in Chicago, and they need like overnight care and all sorts of things. So we've got like, you know, and then we have 4 kids and all the rest of it. So it's just a little bit wild. I think I'd rather probably just take the rest of the year off for big stuff. I'm setting up in Atlanta at the end of January. I would say that's kind of my next big, you know, it's not a big show like the National, but that would be like the next, you know, event outside of Raleigh.
Ham, you got any travel shows on the horizon, or just your local Tampa, Orlando stuff?
Yeah, just the local stuff. I'd like to probably try and get down to one of the shows in Miami, or maybe even the Jacksonville, because we have some bigger shows all around the state all the time, roughly quarterly. There was a big Orlando one that just happened, but it was just before the National, so I wasn't going to try and stretch myself out. I'd really like to go to a Dallas show, and then obviously one day Burbank, but, you know, if I go to Burbank, that's going to be like a good 7-day trip. And I want to see a lot more than just going to the show, though.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Burbank. If I do it, I'm going to turn that into like a part of a vacation, not just a card show thing. Steve, you got anything on the horizon travel show wise?
Traveling, not necessarily. Local stuff like Philadelphia and Chantilly, they're both less than 2 hours away from me.
Yeah, you kind of have that advantage that those are bigger shows that you can kind of get to without any really major lift.
And I think Philadelphia might be in September. I'm going on vacation in September, so if I'm in town, I may be out of town during that show. If not, then I may make it up there. With me, my days off are in the middle of the week, so what makes it tough for sports card shows that tend to fall on the weekends, I always got to take time off work to attend. As far as traveling, I'd love to go to Culture Collision in Atlanta and see Dustin set up. And Burbank, I get asked that a lot. And the thing about Burbank is, like Mike Ham said, if I'm going to, I've never been to California, period. So if I'm going to California, first of all, I'm going to California to go to California. Then if there's a show going on while I happen to be there, I will go to that show. So yeah, I could schedule a California trip around Burbank, but I wouldn't be going to California just to attend a card show. There would be more to it.
Michael asks, one of my local dealers, quick question for you guys. If it wasn't for being content creators, would the National be worth the money? If I wasn't a content creator, I would still go. I probably wouldn't go for all 5 days. I would probably do like a day or two in and out, especially if with me being, you know, in the Midwest, it's easy for me to drive into these, even if it's just for a day or two. I don't have to book a bunch of flights and stuff for Chicago or even Atlanta, or even when it was in Atlantic City. So I would probably still go, but I don't know that I would spend Wednesday through Sunday there. Dustin, would you have any type of different take on that?
I think it depends on kind of how you're operating. If you were a sometimes collector where you buy a handful of cards a year or something and you're in and out and that sort of thing, then maybe it's not worth the money. But if you're, a flipper, if you're buying and selling cards, and even if you're, I would say, a really active collector, there's some dealers that only set up at the National. So it's an opportunity to build relationships with folks that, aren't on eBay, and there are cards and memorabilia at the National that you won't find anywhere else, random things. And so it's an opportunity to go, and kind of see new things, meet new people. But again, it's super crowded. So I know for some people, they're like huge crowds. That's not for me. Totally get that. But I don't think you necessarily have to be a content creator. For us, I think it just adds to that experience. And then kind of like what Neo has talked about before, it offsets some of the cost with making content and, wrapping, YouTube ad around it or whatever. So there's a little bit of a benefit. It's a business trip, essentially, if you're a content creator.
Basically, what Dustin's trying to say is we need a tax write-off for travel expenses.
I mean, what
about you? I mean, you make content, but you're not like, you're not like Dustin and I, where it's like a monetization thing.
Correct. To me, this was more of a guy's trip surrounded by cards. This is something where the event brings all of us together and we all get to enjoy the same thing. Again, I like a little bit different things than y'all do probably at the show, or what I'm looking for, because I'm not really into like flipping stuff and things like that. But like I was saying earlier, because all these vendors are at one place at one time, and I get to kind of enjoy all those vendors and interact with them. But if you're going with a group of people or a family and you can make it for a few days, I mean, I'm always going to do it. I mean, the Chicago National I went to 2 years ago, I traveled there with Bryant and Anna and hung out with them. That's where I met y'all for the first time, because I didn't really know y'all outside of YouTube, which, it's not really always knowing somebody. But yeah, as long as I always got a group of people to go with that we have the same interests for the most part, I want to keep going.
Steve, any words of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, if you're saying if I was never, ever a content creator, then my answer would be no, because I wouldn't have established relationships with people that are the reason that calls me, to drag my ass to Chicago. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't know any of you guys if I was never a content creator. Of that being said, being a content creator, from a money standpoint, I spend more money on my giveaway than I make off my YouTube channel. So I don't make any money by filming content at the National. In fact, there were some days when I was talking to Michael, I was like, man, I might not even film today. But I filmed because I was trying to give people some experience, at least from my viewpoint. Now, I could quit being a content creator today, but I would still go, because I'm not friends with you guys now because I'm a content creator, right? If I quit YouTube tomorrow morning, Neo, Mike Ham, and Dustin, you guys are still my friends. People in the chat that I've met and talked with, you guys are still my friends. So I still have a reason to go regardless if I'm doing content or not. So if you're asking me this from a 2019 standpoint, no, I'm probably not going to any big card show anywhere taking time off and things like that. I'm going to stay local and that's it. Because I hadn't established the relationships. It's the relationships. It's the good times that I look forward to more so than buying and selling cards at the National. Because the National, let's be honest, we've all said it before, it's not the best place to buy and sell cards. It's just not. You're not going to find the best deals at the National, and you're not going to find the biggest buyers at the National. You're more so going for a lot of the stuff that we were talking about tonight that the other shows don't have or offer. So that's just kind of like my take on it. If my channel was to go up in smoke tomorrow, I'm still planning on being in Cleveland a year from now. Just if it's to hang out with you guys, even if I'm not even buying and selling cards. So that's where I stand on that at the moment.
I would recommend to anyone, even if you're not in content or you're just like if you're watching YouTube content about cards, I feel like you're at least one level deeper than a casual. The fact that you're engaging in YouTube content, I would at least try to make one National, even just for a day, just to kind of say that you did it and saw it and kind of took it in. I think it's worth whatever that might cost you, depending on where you live. Pick one in the next couple of years if there's an easy one for you to get to. But I do think it's worth at least walking in that room once. It's hard to describe it even on content until you actually walk in there and you just like kind of spin around in a circle and you're like, geez, this room is something else.
It's kind of like walking into your favorite team's stadium for the first time. As like a New Orleans Saints fan here, we're like Raleigh, like there's not a lot of Saints fans walking around. When you walk into the Superdome, there's 80,000 people that are just like you. And you're like, oh my God, there are all these other people that are rooting for the same team. It's kind of like that. You're granted, you might be collecting different things, but it's 100,000 nerds in one place.
Yeah. Question. This one's for me. Is there something that you saw that got away that either you went back for it and it was gone, or you kind of regret not getting it now that you're back from the show? Dustin, do you have anything that kind of slipped through your fingers, or that you're like, man, I should have went back for X, Y, or Z thing? Wait, did you even look at cards?
I didn't get enough time really to feel like I lost something. No, because I have a different plan and I wasn't ready. I had told you guys I'm looking to get into some bigger items, and I had just bought kind of a bigger item a couple of weeks ago. So I've got to kind of recharge a little bit. And so, for this show, it was kind of more of just take it all in, enjoy all the cool stuff. And if I do see something like the Brady's that I picked up, that's a great add-on, but it would, if I had bought 0 cards, it would have been fine, so it was cool. I just wanted to get the vibes and see what was selling and what was popular. I thought it was really interesting that it felt like there was more of the in-person autograph stuff out. And I think that's where, dealers kind of bring what they feel like is selling or is hot or whatever trending. And it felt like compared to last year and the year before, there was way more of that stuff from my vantage point. It just seemed like there was a lot of, and what I'm talking about are like the authenticated in-person PSA DNA or Beckett or whatever, autograph stuff. Long-winded.
Anything that slipped through your pause that you wish you went back for?
I was only really looking
at
cards, so.
No. Steve, I know you got the big one that you were chasing for a couple of days with the dual auto, but is there anything that you saw that you regret not pulling the trigger on or went back for and wasn't there when you went back for it?
Yeah, well, I don't super regret it because I don't know how rare they are. I was just kind of getting into some new things. I went back Sunday morning for an hour of the show before I had to hurry up and catch my flight. I had to try to risk it for the biscuit, but I still couldn't. I couldn't locate the booths that I was looking at these items at, and they were just signed checks. Like you see signed, see signed tickets, all kinds of stuff. You see signed bank checks from old retired players that have passed or whatever. And I saw one of Bob Gibson that I thought was cool, and it was slabbed by PSA, it's authentic and everything. But what I thought was cool about it is because it signed Robert Gibson. You see all of his cards that are pulled from packs. You see all the stuff that he signed in person at like sports card shows before he passed away or whatever. But and they're signed Bob Gibson. So I thought that this check, and there's probably tons of them out there. I don't know. I don't know that market at all. But to me, it felt neat, and it was slabbed by PSA, and it was like $100. So it felt neat and unique and affordable. And that was kind of hard to find. It's hard to find neat, unique, and affordable. You can find unique, but a lot of times it doesn't have that affordable tag on it. And then I saw the same thing that was a Stan Musial, but it was signed Stanley Musial. And I just thought that that was cool because you see tons of Stan Musial autographs, but the Stanley Musial signature I've never seen. Now, people who deal in this type of stuff might see that stuff all the time. But to me, that kind of came off neat. But I didn't go back and buy them because, again, I am very inexperienced in that. I did buy one autograph that I haven't even revealed yet on my channel from one of those booths. But as far as cards go, I don't think I missed anything. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I want, I can get anywhere. So it's not like, oh, I missed it. You know, I want a nice Pujols. I want a Mahomes. I want just stuff to put away for the future. But that stuff was easy to come by at the National. I feel like I could pick it up somewhere else. But yeah, I got the Star Wars card. That was my big card.
It's
only
funny
thing I had is
we
there
all
was
went
a-
non-sports. We all went like non-sports with our stuff because that is the stuff that's hard to find. Like the sports card stuff is everywhere, whether it's vintage, modern, whatever. You guys went Star Wars. I've been buying Stranger Things or whatever, but it's because there's like a handful of sets or whatever, it's like, it actually is the stuff that you're looking for. Like you want a dual auto of whatever you guys were, numbered to 25, similar with what I'm doing. But yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. The one card that I saw that I went back for that was gone, there was a Manny Ramirez Essentials Credentials. The dealer was I thought the dealer was a little high on, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll circle back to that if it's still there tomorrow. And I went back to see if they deal on it on Saturday afternoon, and I didn't see it in the case anymore. To your point, Dustin, I thought there was, to previous Nationals, way more non-sports on the show floor. And you could paint with a broad brush there. I'm not talking any one particular thing, whether it's Marvel, Star Wars, pop culture, actors, whatever. I felt like I saw way more of that stuff sprinkled in the cases. And I feel like I saw a lot more dealers. Like I know, Steve was working with, as he likes to call it, Rubik's Cube. They were actively looking for, we want pop culture items. We want non-sports autos. I saw multiple dealers actively or either had signs up or were like, saying like we're looking to buy or get into more of that kind of stuff. Did anyone either notice that or any other trends like that? Dustin, I'll throw to you first.
I guess I just didn't. I didn't
actually look at cards.
I didn't look at it. Honestly, it felt like a blur until about Saturday afternoon. And for Saturday afternoon, I spent about 4 hours looking at tables just consistently. Outside of that, Saturday afternoon, it was very inconsistent. So I was looking, but I wasn't focused and, I wasn't locked in on it. But that's actually a good point. It's an interesting point you're making about like last year before, seeing more of the pop culture, non-sports stuff. Cause I didn't see enough to notice really whether there was more or less, but it does seem to be a thing that is catching on. And of course, the type 1 photos. Everyone's got the type 1 photos. That's like definitely caught on. My God, it was like, I feel like last year it was tickets, a year and a half ago, all about the tickets, which of course are still tickets, but type 1 through 4 photos. My God, like a lot.
Yeah, I did saw a lot of photos, not just Merle's booth, just in general.
Yeah, just lots more.
And did you notice kind of whether more? Did you think there was more or less non-sports on the show floor? Or any other kind of like macro trends?
I noticed more non-sport this year than the 2 years ago than I was there, and even at my local shows, I'm starting to see more of it pop up into cases, or people having separate cases dedicated to those type of things, because they're popular and people want them. And I think what it is those things are more collected than they are flipped. So they're harder to obtain and see because unless they come out of a collection half the time or somebody just hits it in a break, you don't see it usually come out. A perfect example is the card that Steve bought. I ended up buying a Bret Hart card from them right before I left. But that company doesn't put stuff on eBay. So you would never even know what they have because they just operate out of their shop basically. So and that's goes back to that thing where not every card in a case you're going to be able to get online because you don't even know they have it. So in that sense, going to the National and really looking at cases can be very important to find that one card in a case that you're not going to see anywhere else because it's either that rare or nobody's willing to sell it.
Steve, I know you were specifically looking for some non-sports stuff. Did you think you saw more of it on the show floor compared to previous years?
Yeah, compared to previous years. Now, in ratio to sports cards, it was still dwarfed a lot,
Sure.
but it was a little bit more. I'm seeing it a little bit more and more. And really, to be specific, right now, as it stands, it's just basically like if it's a popular character in a movie or a TV series, having that actor's autograph on that character's card tends to be the way that it is. It's not necessarily just, hey, a base card of this actor is worth money. It's got to be something special to it, like a signature. And right now, it's really just the main popular ones. And like Mike Ham said, it's the collectability of it. It's also a bit refreshing when you're in a room as big as we were in, or a building as big as we were in, with as many sports cards as we saw. When you would see something different like that, it would kind of grab your attention, because you're like, oh man, I've seen so many of this player A, player B, this sport, that sport. That's pretty neat. I'd like to take that home. You know what I mean? The last day, I went up to a guy who had a small showcase of pop culture cards and a few autographs in there, and he also had some sports. And we were talking about it. He was like, yeah, I'm really like some of the pop culture stuff. And so I started showing him some of my stuff. And I showed him a Topps Allen and Ginter Charles Martinet signature that I had. Now, for those who don't know, Charles Martinet is the voice of Mario, Luigi, and Wario on all the video games. And this guy was like, I have to have this card, because I have to have this card. This guy is the voice of my childhood, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, the last comp on it is like only $100. And he's like, I don't care. I will pay you full comp because I want this for my collection. And this was a dealer, and he gave me $100 bill for it. I had two, so that was fine by me. He gave me $100 bill for it. He didn't go to his showcase. He put it down into his case. I guess that would have been his collection. And he thanked me like 3 times as I was walking away. Thanks for letting me buy that card off you. I know $100 isn't a lot of money, but thanks for letting me add that to my collection. So that, just tells me that people can relate to these cards just as well as they can their favorite athletes. Like, I relate to Harrison Ford and Han Solo. And when I bought that card, I had a certain feeling about getting it.
Well, it's a fun chase. I mean, if you guys each have a Harrison Ford autograph, and if you compare Harrison Ford autographs to Patrick Mahomes autographs, yeah, the demand might not be the same, but they're far, far more limited than a Patrick Mahomes autograph or a Tom Brady autograph or anybody. We're using like huge names. Go through, any of these, guys that are traveling around at shows and signing, so that's kind of a fun. I do it on the Stranger Things side with actor autographs. It's a fun chase because they do not pop up. They're very limited. The parallel versions are very simple. You don't have 50 shades of, blue prism or whatever, and, all these different varieties. It's literally like a handful of different options, and that's it. So they're not easy to find. It makes the chase fun.
And before we breeze on, sorry, Neo, before we breeze on from the pop culture, there was the gas booth there, which we didn't talk about. That is a new company that's putting out some pop culture stuff, like the Arnold Schwarzenegger cards, and they had some TLC cards, they had some Ice-T cards, and you can pull autographs from their packs. You get like 2 cards per pack for like $50, like a 1 in a 5 chance of getting an autograph of one of them. And they're expanding and getting more and more artists and actors and things like that, to where they're putting out music cards. And they're high end. They look nice. They're nice cards. They come slabbed and sealed already. And I know that the Arnold autographs sell for over $1,000 on eBay, because you see them, and you can buy a pack of those, I think, for $99, but you get a 1 in 5 chance of hitting one of those autographs in their own card. So that was a pretty cool booth. I don't know if it'll gain much more or a lot of steam, but for somebody who likes that kind of stuff, I thought that, and I didn't see that booth again till the last day. And I was there for an hour that last day. I really got to just look at that booth for like 5 minutes.
Did you buy any packs?
No, because I didn't have time to open them. I was literally about to like Uber on its way. And it would have been too big. The box was too big to get in my luggage or to get in my backpack. I said to Ham, I was like, I'm going to open one of these, but I don't know where to put it. And I was like, I got to go. My Uber's at the Hyatt waiting for me.
And some of those may pop up online, Steve, because I know they had boxes left when I left the booth, because I went back to that section over there. And I know they still had boxes of the Schwarzenegger stuff at least available. The only thing I know they sold out of at the show was the Tupac. Obviously, no autographed Tupac, but the Tupac prismatic cards that you would get in a $99 box. They sold completely out of that one for sure.
The cards look really nice. So
yeah,
they did. I saw the Arnold one at Merle's booth. It did look.
Merle pulled an auto.
Yeah, he pulled an auto. Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I was gonna say about the pop culture stuff, to circle back to Dustin's point from earlier, like on the Harrison Ford, like there's kind of two levels of chase there. Like you can, to just use him as an example. I know Steve and I talked about this at the show. Like you could find a Harrison Ford auto for like $500 from like Leaf Pop Century, but if you want a Harrison Ford Han Solo auto, those are even way more limited, and those go for a huge premium. So there's almost two things going on of just getting the actor's auto, but then also getting the actor's auto in one of their iconic characters, depending on, the length of the career. So it's kind of interesting to see that dichotomy between, I can get a Harrison Ford auto for $400 or $500 in Leaf Pop Century, but if I want him as Harrison, or if I want him as Han Solo, I'm looking at $2,000 plus.
Yeah, and I actually bought a card that I've been shopping for forever. Did not see it at the National. Popped up on eBay while I was on my way home from the airport, and I bought it. I was actually still in the Philly airport. I bought on eBay, but it's a card that never comes up for sale, and it came up for sale after the National on eBay, and I bought it. It's like a 1 in 5,000 plus packs autograph, so we'll see it in the future. Everybody's waiting. What is it? What is it?
I didn't see 2 guys got arrested for stealing. I completely missed that. Did that come on any of your guys' radar? I didn't see that on Friday. I did see the ambulance out front when I left for lunch on Friday multiple times. I'm not surprised by that. It was hot as hell in there. That's not surprising.
It was just probably see heat strokes.
Yeah, but I didn't hear anything about anyone getting arrested for stealing. I mean, that's not surprising. You get 100,000 people in a room, you're going to get a certain percentage of bad actors. But
it was just a misunderstanding between Steve and Ham, but we bailed them out, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't bail us out during the rain, though.
I was just going to say one of my favorite parts of Steve's vlogs was when you guys got caught in the rain and he was recording and you could just see.
Yeah, but what you couldn't see you couldn't see me and Steve hugging in the corner of the bus stop and trying to protect ourselves.
We're like crunched up in the corner of that bus stop because the wind was blowing, so that it wasn't even like the bus stop was protecting us. Like the wind was blowing perfectly at us, and so the water was like. And then the street filled up with water like this high, like so quick.
I was like, we're gonna get splashed, Steve. We're gonna get splashed.
And then the Uber driver pulls up, and I'm like, I got to jump across a moat with my Pelican case to even get into the car.
It did pour. What was that, Friday night?
That
was Friday night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Friday night.
The Uber driver saw you guys out there and just kept going. Just, you know what? Pass. I'll get the next guy.
She slammed on her brakes. I was surprised she stopped where she stopped.
Oh, wasn't that the fine Uber driver, Steve? Was that the one, or was that a different one?
I could only see the back of her head. She just had like a Romanian accent.
Yeah, she was Romanian.
Steve just wanted her to talk dirty. That's all he cared about.
Oh man,
that's what happens when you hang out with Ham all week.
Yeah, shit happens.
Big-headed Ham. Every time I go to film, Ham's big old head. Big-headed Ham.
Popping in.
Dustin, so the bunch of us went out to dinner on Saturday night, but Dustin blew us off. He was too good for us.
That is not how the story went. But
all I know is I sent a text and said, who wants in for reservations? And Steve was like, I'm in. Ham said, I'm in. Dustin went, eh.
Yeah, well, I'm actually glad that I didn't because I did not realize it was going to be a reservation at 6:30 and you guys got done at 10.
We get done at 10. We got done at 9:30.
Yeah.
9:45.
It was still daylight outside when we left that place.
Yeah.
Did you guys get kicked out because you closed the place down? That's what I wanted.
No, the place was going strong.
No, really.
Steve had to take his hat off.
Really, it was the Uber ride back from the restaurant. There was some sort of
Yeah.
event letting out nearby, and like we sat in that.
Well, what's
traffic
funny
for a
is,
long time.
I remember telling you guys, I'm like, I'm not Ubering anywhere. And you're like, it's an 8-minute drive. It's an 8-minute Uber. It's no big deal. And I'm like, I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with trying to back. And then, of course, it was like a 45-minute Uber drive back. We had to get up at 5 to rush to the airport to then sit at the airport for 6 hours on a delay. So I had to get up early for that. And so, yeah, it just didn't work out.
I'm definitely putting that place on the radar for next time we're in Chicago. Is that food was legit good at Carmine's.
Dustin had a can of mixed veggies.
The first time it was in Chicago, I didn't spend any time back there, but this time I did because one of the party event things was back there. That complex, like behind the Crown Plaza next to the Aloft, there's like a dozen restaurants back there. There's like a pizza
I
place,
heard about that.
a bar, a bowling alley, a barbecue place.
Oh, yeah, we did lunch there.
Barbecue.
Will's asking about the can of peas.
Oh, I was going to pull that up next.
The can of peas.
Yeah, do you want to?
So my pasta,
PG, Steve.
I had peas with my dinner, like the night before, but then, Dustin also handed me a drink at one of the trade nights, and I don't know what it was, and I don't know if anything was dropped in it. So
it didn't taste.
Either way,
Steve, take this. I just got a new one.
Anyway, it was like 1 a.m, and I was super tired, and my stomach started hurting, and I was like, "No, just fight it till the morning." So I fought it and fell asleep. Fought it till the morning, and then the old Jolly Green Giant and the.
Hey, listen, I thought those noodles looked a little weird that you're eating. I said that to you.
That's all right.
TCG Presence International. I saw a ton of Pokemon. I saw next to zero Magic the Gathering and other stuff, but there was a lot of Pokemon.
That's another thing that was popular was Pokemon.
There was a lot of Pokemon on the show.
And it was moving. And the funny thing is I saw 2 dealers there that I see at the Philly show every time. I see in Chantilly every time. I think they probably travel the circuit. And they have transitioned their showcases from 90% sports, 10% other, to like 70% Pokemon, to like 30% sports.
I noticed too, Gary V made his V Friends cards TCG as well. So that's now a trading card game.
Oh, yeah. I saw people playing it.
Yeah. Shock.
There's been lots of questions in chat tonight about Cleveland next year. So we could talk about it a little bit, but I do plan on recording a video later this week, kind of laying out like the scene for the Cleveland National for people that I've never attended a national in Cleveland, but I've been to the IX Center before and I know the general area fairly well. The biggest recommendation that I could throw out there right now is to start researching hotels now. Just book something that you can cancel and get that locked in. The biggest thing is that you are not going to be able to walk across the street to the National. There are no hotels directly around the IX Center, and the ones that are super close suck. So you're going to have at least a 5 to 15 minute car drive or an Uber drive. And I mean, Cleveland has Ubers, but it's not like Chicago. So I have a feeling there's going to be like a little bit of a log jam for Ubers if you're relying on that.
It can't be worse than Atlantic City. It can't be worse than Atlantic City. Going from the Borgata to the convention center every day and back every night. And
I
back
have a problem with that because my wife dropped me off every day.
Well,
so
yeah, that's true.
But basically what I'm saying is if you're going with a group of people, it might not be a bad idea to just think about renting a car. Like if you have a bunch of guys going, just rent like a van for the week or something, or an SUV to get back and forth.
Just get an Airbnb. Would that be better than getting a hotel?
I mean, sure, but you're still going to need a way to get to the Airbnb to the National. Like that's
but that's what I mean. If people got an Airbnb and rented a car, then you have the whole.
Yeah. But I don't know that there's exactly like a billion Airbnbs floating around the southwest side of Cleveland either, because you're not downtown. You're a good 15, 20 minutes with traffic from downtown Cleveland. So you can stay downtown if you want to. You're going to have to drive no matter what, like I said. So, there's a couple different areas around that are pretty decent. North Olmsted's good. Strongsville's good. Downtown's good. Westlake's good. And it's not like they're bad. It's not like they're not safe. Just that the hotels are a little right around the airport are very much like very low end. I need to stay here for 6 hours to take a shower because my flight got delayed or something like that. So, and car transportation is going to be extremely important. I'm also very curious to see, as we all saw, the trade nights got really out of control this year in regards to the amount of people, even Ryan's. I was already talking with some people today about like, where is Ryan's trade night going to be at next year? Because there's not a logical venue off the top of my head to house that thing, unless they do it at the IX Center. There could be a spot that they're not using in that, and maybe they just have it on site. They very well could. But also, hotel trade nights are going to be kind of like Atlantic City, because everyone's going to be very spread out from each other. So I think it's going to be much more micro trade nights versus like everyone is going to the Hyatt or everyone is going to the Lowe's, like Chicago kind of plays out. So
sounds like it's going to be
I'm doing a video specific on the Cleveland National, but my biggest recommendation is look at hotels now. Don't wait.
I'll tell you something that I didn't bring up, and I didn't tell anybody about. Michael Ham, you were there. We got back to our hotel. It might have been the last night. Was it the night that it rained, or was it Saturday night? I think it was Saturday night. And there was 4. They were young, 12, I don't know, sitting in the lobby, and they were set up, and they were like going to trade night with each other, but it was more or less like they were going through the motions of a trade night. It was almost as if they were it was almost as if they were just pretending. They had their cards out there and they were talking to each other like they were wheeling and dealing, but like none of them looked like they really had any money. They were just like, oh, you want 50 for that? I can't do 50. And we put it back. It was almost as if, when you're a kid, you play, I don't know, cops and robbers or something. It's like they were sitting there, but they were playing like trade night. It was like they're almost like they were role playing it. And a guy walked up to them, but he walked up to the 2 on the other side. I don't think he saw the 2 on the backside. And he was like, he handed the one kid a Tua Panini 1 RPA, handed the other kid, I think it was a Kenny Pickett RPA. And he said, here, these are yours. And he walked out. He didn't say his name. He didn't say anything. And he walked out. And those kids were in like tears. Their fathers were there. And they were like, oh my God, this didn't just happen. That didn't just happen. Did this really just happen? And they're like, what? He's like, that guy just walked up to me and gave me this card. And the other kid is over there shaking. He's like, look, he just walked up to me and gave me this. And we're like, holy, he just gave him these quarterback RPAs and walked right out the door.
It's genuine.
It was crazy.
Genuine excitement is what it was. It was just nice to see.
The kids were like uncontrollable, like emotional, like it was like somebody just dropped $1 million in their lap.
Yeah.
I think all of us kind of talked about this in some shape or form. And I know, Dustin, you kind of led the charge on this. There was 1 billion kids at this thing. Like, I'm talking like little kids too, like 8, 10, 12, 13, 14 years old, like not, teens. Don't get me wrong, there was plenty of 18 to 25-year-olds, but there was a lot of 16 and under at this thing. One of the most popular spots on the entire show floor was the eBay / Market Movers co-sponsored kids trade zone. That thing was wild every time I walked past it.
Yeah, because the one in between area you could barely walk through because of so many kids on the floor there doing their own little trade thing.
Yeah, Jeff's got his son. I can't remember his oldest son's name, but leading the charge on that. He's got his own YouTube channel and everything. It's going to be like mini me, running that. He'll probably have his own booth next year, just a whole separate thing. Who knows?
I mean, basically had his whole section. They had a table that was in that market mover section that was just for his son to put cards into display and then sit on a couch where people could come up and look at them.
Yeah, it was wild. I can't remember was it me and you that were talking about his son had like a camera woman or a cameraman following him the entire show. And I was thinking like, man, my experience was a lot different when I was collecting cards when I was 12 or 11 or whatever he is, like the idea of like a camera person following you around card shows. My dad was like, get in the car. It's time to leave the mall. What are you doing? They had like the pop-up like card show at the local mall,
That and a lot of these kids have better cards than I have. So, they're running around with 10K cards. I'm like, well, I would rather have 10K than a card, especially at like 13. But what do I know?
They don't have bills.
I guess. Well, they
have a limited time to grind it out and trade up and stuff.
Jeez.
We're all yelling at them like, must be nice living with your parents. They're like, well, yeah, I'm 10. Of course I live with my parents.
So we know next year's in Cleveland, then we're back to Chicago, and then the much ballyhooed 2026 National. If you had a vote, Dustin, Chicago, Atlanta, or Atlantic City?
I think it should be Atlantic City just for all the fun content we can make around it.
Oh, God. Ham,
No, I mean,
Chicago, Atlanta, or Atlantic City?
I would say Atlanta, but yeah, go ahead.
I would say Atlanta just to be a different place.
And we can talk to it.
The only thing that I hated from flying into Coulter Collision was it's like a 45-minute ride from the airport where that was at.
Well, I don't know where the actual Atlanta Convention Center is because it wouldn't be where Culture Collision is. That place is way too small. I assume they have an actual mega downtown one somewhere. I just don't know where it is. I'm not familiar with the area.
I prefer it to be in Orlando.
Well, that's not on the list. Steve, Atlanta, Chicago, or AC?
So this will be coming out of a Chicago show, right?
Correct.
So
and the following year we'll be back in Chicago. We know that 2027 in Chicago. So would you want to do Chicago 3 years in a row?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. That would tend to maybe start to feel stale a little bit. Even though Atlantic City had its cons, it was different. I would prefer not to be Atlantic City though. With that being said, I mean, just by process of elimination, I guess Atlanta. But I wish they would just come up with another city altogether. But if that's the choices that we have, probably Atlanta.
My vote would be Atlanta too, just to mix it up. Even though that would be I would probably still drive it. That would be a further drive for me. I would still take it. If it was in Atlantic City, would you go? Because let's also remember, by then, Fanatics events, which we don't know what that's going to look like, will be in full force.
Honestly, just hearing you talk about Cleveland makes me wonder about the Fanatics events. Like that, honestly, like the Cleveland thing sounds terrible. I haven't heard one thing about Cleveland other than like you mentioned, like the layout's probably not, like the layout's good.
Cleveland will have, so Cleveland, from what I've been told from people that attended nationals there, Cleveland has the best space. Like being inside the room is the best in Cleveland, is what everyone has always ever said.
But
I know that aspect of it will be good.
Everything else sounds terrible.
Correct.
It's like Atlantic City without, all the drugs and threatening to get murdered every 3 feet.
Yeah, Mike baseball card collector said that out of all the nationals ever gone to, the Cleveland space is the best one to host the show. Now, all the outside stuff, not having hotels close to it, that does sound like a horrible nightmare.
Yeah.
What would be your events comes with? Because if they come with some crazy ass show that's right around the same time, then who knows? It also depends if it's mixed. Like, are all my friends going to go to the Fanatics event and not?
Yeah, that'll be where it starts to get tricky. Where's everyone going to?
Yeah, so
that first Fanatics event is going to be very interesting for everybody.
Yeah. Dustin, we'll go around the horn on this. What is your dream location for either the national or Fanatics events? Like a large, obviously you need to pick somewhere that can host something like this. So you can't say Raleigh, but like what would be your ideal city to have something like this that makes sense?
Yeah, for proximity, maybe Charlotte. Charlotte's a decent size. I mean, there's
convention center's too small.
They've got an international airport, they've got a giant airport and stuff.
Convention center's not big enough. That's a nice size room, but it's not big enough for something on that level.
I barely even got the answer out before you're fighting with me over it for 10 minutes. I would go Orlando probably with Ham because I've got a bunch of family in Florida, so that could be something to where like they can handle it. Plus, I could probably get some family together and go. So yeah, I'd probably say Orlando. 7-hour drive.
Ham.
8-hour drive.
Orlando, 100%. It can host it. It just hosts what's called ICAST, largest fishing show in the world, where everybody comes from literally around the planet to, and they have way bigger booths than what we deal with at the show and the setup for the vendors, and it holds that just fine. It's huge. It's easy to get to. There's plenty of hotels all around it. It's just convenient.
I mean, I don't know the cities and I guess they're the logistics of it, but I mean, I would like it to be somewhere like I want it to be more centrally located than going all the way down to Orlando or staying all the way on the East Coast like Atlantic City or even Charlotte. Something like Nashville would make like sense to me, and that seems like a good city to have it in, and there's lots of other stuff to do. I would think it would be cool if it'd be out west, but I don't think that makes sense for the dealers. But I mean, like a city like Phoenix would probably be good too. But then you're getting out west, so I mean, you're trying to be like centrally located. I mean, Chicago tends to be the place, but you wouldn't want to go over to Detroit. I don't think. I'd like Nashville. I think that sounds like it could be a good place.
So I have two answers, and one of them was going to be Nashville. I think Nashville would be a good city for it. It's got a tourism aspect of it that, like, if you wanted to bring the family along, that there's some stuff that everyone could do. Great food city, pretty centrally located. I'm not sure about their convention center space. I'm not familiar with it, so I don't know what that looks like. The one that I think makes a lot of sense, and I'm surprised it's not on any lists, is Indianapolis. Someone in chat mentioned it. Indy has a great downtown for hosting conventions. The convention center is massive. It also is attached to the Colts football stadium, and conventions use part of the football field and that space if the show is big enough. So I think that would be something the National could leverage. Like, imagine that you have the show in their convention center, and maybe all the autographs or the trade nights or something are actually in the football field, like in that building. I think something like that would be really cool. And they have everything's close together. There's tons of hotels. Downtown Indy is really good. I've been to Gen Con before there, and like the way everything was laid out just made a lot of sense from hosting a large show. I'm surprised that's not on the list, given the proximity. It's not that far from Chicago. It would slide right in to that. And I know that the space is plenty big enough, but Cleveland, to circle back to that, the show will be good. It's just that there's this extra wrinkle of getting to the show every day. You just can't walk across the street. Other than that, it's going to be fine. But that's just, I know a lot of people are used to, I fall out of my hotel and I'm in the National. That just won't be the case in Cleveland. But so. Anyone have any last minute thoughts? I know none of us want to go super late tonight, so we'll kind of wrap up here pretty quick. Dustin, any closing thoughts on or final bows you want to put on the 2023 National?
No, I thought it was awesome per usual. Trying to compare it to the other ones, I feel like the Atlantic City would be the worst experience of the three Nationals I've been to, but even Atlantic City was a lot of fun too. So I mean, it just, I don't know. I am excited to see what Fanatics events looks like, but I don't see myself not going to the National unless there's some dramatic change in how it like if Fanatics events literally like same weekend and takes half the people away, which I don't think that it makes sense for them to do that for their own, for their own business. I don't see them doing that. So yeah, no, I thought it was great. It was good hanging out with you guys and, just the usual stuff. It was awesome.
Haminator, any final thoughts?
No, just, wherever you go, just hopefully they got good air and the layout's a little bit better. I mean, other than that, I had a great time. I mean, I enjoyed it the whole time. It's great to see everybody, and it's just fun. I just enjoyed it. Again, like I said, it's like my little playground once a year that I can go and enjoy something and just hang out with everybody that has that like-mindedness to an event.
Corporate Steve?
Sold out. Bro, I was going to do the Vince McMahon walk, but
after I added you, you should have come in through that door back there and come bursting through.
I feel like
no chance in hell.
You changed, Steve. Over the last few days, you've really changed.
Really changed.
We don't know who you are anymore.
Let's see. One of the biggest things that I get out of the National every year is being able to send somebody else. I think that's another big thing of why I enjoyed the National so much this year, because like how genuinely happy seeing Mark at the show was. You guys know, you were around him. He come around and hung around some, and he really appreciated it and enjoyed it. I was already thinking today that I was like, man, it's not going to be long before I announce that I'm going to do it again. And I'm hoping that I'm in that situation. I don't know where I'll be in a year, though. I don't know where I'll be with sports cards. I know that you guys will still be my friends. And we talked about.
Is this a card retirement speech? Because I can't have another.
Yeah.
Rat on my hand.
Yeah. I'm about to collect my 401k, and I'm going to collect your Social Security. But Well, anyway, how many likes did you get, Neo?
I don't know, I'm giving you the main screen for your retirement speech.
All of them. Man, get me off that screen. I'm not talking. And okay, I'm back.
How many likes did I get on this?
What I was just going to say, my final take is that I want to go to next year's national. None of us know where we'll be in the space or, even in life then. So it's like,
boy, that's really setting it up.
Regardless of where it's going to be, I hope to be there. I plan to be there. It's going to be tough to beat this year's national. That's just the false expectations are going to be really high because this year's national was so good that anything less than 2023 could feel like a letdown. And it's going to be tough. That's a good thing. It's a good thing that this national was that good.
This kind of
next year is really high expectations.
This is going to be a big dramatic setup where Steve isn't sure if he's going next year up until like the week before. It's going to be like, oh yeah, I've had my hotel for like 6 months or whatever. It's going to be
well. You guys know just from us having general discussion that it wasn't till like a day or two before the national that I actually got excited.
Oh yeah, we do know. I was on that live stream.
Yeah, but I even called you.
What's your thoughts on the national this year?
But I even called you on my way to work. This wasn't a live stream though. This wasn't a live stream. I called Neo on the way to work and I was like, dude, the national's in like a day. And it's just now sinking. I was like, it's just now sinking in. Last time I tried to call you, Neo, you texted me back. I can't talk on the phone right now. So, but yeah, it was like the national's like a day away and it's just now setting in. I can't believe I go to work today and then I like fly out. I'm like, it just all of a sudden was like boom. And all the buildup of me feeling like, man, I'm not that excited to where it was actually the best show I've ever been to. Because if somebody would have told me going into it, I'd have probably been like, no, my first national, my second national in Atlanta are probably all going to be better. That's just how I was feeling. And I was wrong. And I'm glad that I was wrong. So now I don't know what to expect next year because my expectations were completely different this year.
One thing I want to do for next year, we can do content around it or whatever, but Ham, you don't have to participate if you don't want to, but Steve, you did really good on like Goff and whatever like random ass quarterback that you bought and then of course sold off and made $1 trillion like usual. I want to all of us get in on some sort of like prospect QB because it feels like at the national, that's like what everybody is like. That's like the feeding frenzy in the, like the school of fish are around all the quarterbacks and I guess maybe like baseball prospect type stuff. So in December, January or whatever, I'm going to stock up on some football QB prospect type stuff and like just for the national, just as like a side project, just to bring it to the national.
I saw when Steve was getting into that like a little mini retirement speech. It sounded like the text Dustin was sending to get out of dinner on Saturday night. It was just excuse.
I think this event got Steve a little rejuvenated.
They were just like
out there.
I was waiting for Dustin to be like, Kim put super glue on the toilet. Now I can't come to dinner. I'm stuck.
I was like, oh, you guys are going to dinner? No problem. I mean, hell, how long does it take to eat? Not 4 hours. I didn't think
we were about to leave. We were about to leave, and then Neo ordered a large cake, and
no, Ham ordered the cheesecake.
Ham, I started it.
Ham ordered a cheesecake for 3.
I was sitting in the lobby staring out the window at the road, like with my cards, just like looking at each car that came by. Is that the Uber? Is that them? Is that them?
Or you could have just came to dinner with us.
And then finally, I was just like, I gave up. I'm like, all right, I guess they're just not coming, so that's fine.
You could have just came to dinner with us, and then you just would have been there.
I just would have been there all night. I think that
what's so wrong with that? What's so wrong with this? With all of us?
Look, day? You said you had to be in bed by 10.
I had a flight,
and I texted you at 9:53. Like, we had 7 minutes.
That's like my 19-year. That's like my teenagers. Like we have 7 minutes. Like no, dude, no.
A lot can happen in 7 minutes.
7 minutes, like I said, 7 minutes could turn into an hour, and then there you go.
7 minutes in heaven.
Look, you could have stayed up till 11. 1 less hour of sleep is all that it would have cost you.
You guys could have also done a 3-hour dinner instead of a 4-hour dinner. Could have also done that.
You control how quick the food comes out. I'm not in the kitchen.
I don't think it was 4 hours.
Steve's chicken took 35 minutes just to prepare.
Yeah. Steve knew you were on a time limit. Listen, here. Steve knew that you wanted to meet by 10 o'clock. He looks at the menu, and on the menu, he orders the chicken. and specifically on the chicken, it says this will take 35 minutes to prepare. It had like all these directions on. This is going to take
Who got their food first? Who got their food first?
I'm not mincing words.
Hold on. Whose food came out first? Mine.
Come out first. Yeah.
I like when they set down that your plate of chicken and that thing of chicken parm. We all looked at each other like, holy shit, what the hell did we get into here?
Neo's medium pizza.
that was the biggest piece of chicken parm I ever seen in my life.
You guys were like, my God, I am stuffed. Let's order an entire cake and sit here.
We were good, and then the table next to us got a piece of chocolate cake. We all saw it walk by, and we all looked at it like we'd never seen food before, and we're like,
look,
wow, we're all ordering dessert now.
I didn't order dessert, man. I was good after my meal. I was good.
I was shuffling the cards in the lobby, memorizing the cert numbers, just like looking out the window for you, and just no, you guys were stuffing your faces. So that's what happened.
All right, one last thing, and then we'll close this puppy out. So,
I was reading Bob Big Boy's comment about the golfs.
Steve,
there's been a lot of chat recently about it's all going to zero and all this and that, but I think we can all agree coming off the national that there's definitely still a lot of money floating around. I don't know, how do we each kind of just generally feel about the state of things after spending 5 days in the Super Bowl of cards? But it definitely didn't look like the hobby's dying anytime soon or any of that nonsense.
Be right back.
Work around again.
Yeah, I saw the national, I think it was Ray posted something about it being the most attended card show ever. So there was that, like, was it bigger than Anaheim or whatever? They announced that it was the most attended card show ever on IG. And it certainly seemed like it. I mean, it was a spectacle. It was unbelievable. Yeah. And I guess we'll never know like how much money was actually spent, how many people were there trading, how many people were just there to look, how many people were just window shopping, or
just there for autographs.
I mean, yeah, we'll never know that part, but the interest level is higher than it was 2 years ago when we were coming off of a pandemic and people were just getting out to like outside again. I mean, so that's got to tell you something. It's crazy.
Hambone?
Yeah, no. One thing I noticed at the show is, we're not the spring chickens anymore. And I know, but there's a really young crowd right now.
Dinner.
You keep eating meals like that.
That's what Steve had for dinner on Saturday night.
Meals like that.
Hey, I had the lamb chops. But you can definitely see that the hobby's growing and that the next wave and generations really kicked in. And they're doing it, I think, at a higher level, younger. And the ones that are good and smart in it are going to excel in this environment. I don't see it going away. Fanatics is going to come in. They're going to probably start off offering a bunch of crazy stuff to bring people in, probably trap them into it, and then see where it carries it for 3 years. I have Fanatics on a 5-year outlook.
Yeah, one thing I want to add just quickly is it's also clear that there is enough young people that there will be that nostalgic effect, that 20, 25, 30 year. Like, I mean, obviously we can't see the future, but it just like, it's like 1990. It's like that high. It's mainstream. It's certainly mainstream. And Fanatics is going to continue to work on that. And I just don't see how these young people, where this is something they did with their dad or whatever, when they hit their midlife crisis like we did, in 20, 25 years, I mean, they're going to come back to it. So,
which will be right when we're all ready to retire and we can cash out into the 401k.
You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it.
Steve, any just general thoughts on like kind of where we sit right now in the card world coming off the national?
No, my retirement speech is over. You cut me off already. I took the mic.
I put you on the main stage and you backed down.
Yeah, I'm shy.
We don't know.
But
we don't know what life holds. I don't know tomorrow, let alone next year.
Yeah, coming from the man that was stuck on the toilet and couldn't go to dinner with us.
Dude, you were like, I'll be back. I'll be back. Just kidding. We're having cake, and then we're going to have cheesecake and donuts, and I'll be back. I'll be back never. Bye. That was Steve.
But he had to raise the chicken before he could eat it.
No, and people have made this comments already. Like, the hobby was here long before this massive, before the pandemic and before this massive influx of people. It may have been smaller, and it may get back to where it was, but it was never a nothing, right? So going forward, it should never be a nothing. If anything, something should sustain. More bigger business coming in. Now, you did talk about lots of younger people coming in. Now, how many of those younger people are in there for the money? And how many of them in it for actually wanting to collect something? I don't see a lot of that, honestly.
I think it's a trap. I think it's kind of a trap that they can get in with that intent of making money and then end up liking something enough to want to collect it.
I think you've seen that a lot. To Ham's point, though, I think you kind of seen that like evolution over the years with a lot of people. They come in for the flip, and the ones that stay still do the flip, but also kind of fall into something that they're like.
But if we had eBay when we were 11 and 12, we'd probably be the same. You know, if we had kind of all the access that these like this generation has, do you think that we wouldn't try to sell cards? I mean, we tried to trade cards, and then we tried to, you know, so I just think it's more of just like an internet thing, you know.
Right. But I do think more people are looking at this more as a business than a hobby right now, especially the young kids. They all, on their Instagram tags, they all call themselves entrepreneurs. I mean, go look. I'm going to be the more negative, pessimistic side of this, okay? Because I think that there's fewer and far between of how many people are here right now flipping cards for money that actually have a willingness to stay in this if it's not making them any money. Because first it was sneakers, now it's cards. It'll be whatever is next to make the money. Now, you may say 1 out of every 5 or 1 out of every 10 or 1 out of every 3. Maybe for you, it might be 1 out of every 2 is going to stay and say, hey, this is my hobby now. Us, it was different. We came into this as a hobby, and then we realized, hey, we can make money off this. So now it's a hobby and it's a way to make money. With them, they came in the other way. They came in, we can make money off this, which means now it has to become a hobby, which now it's a hobby secondary. To us, it was a hobby primary. So that's where the comparison is a little skewed. And I see a lot of the people who are buying and selling cards of a younger age at showcases. My name's Flipping Steve, so I still do buy and sell cards. I still do that. So I see I'm in the mix. I'm the old man in the mix. And I see the lack of care for a lot of the stuff that they're buying and selling. The lack of attachment, which means there's not really a collectability. And right now, even if there is something that you want to collect, it's hard to do it without money because everything's expensive and a base card isn't collectible. So that's just kind of where it is. If you're not coming into this, if you're not doing this to make money right now, it's hard. It's hard to be a collector. Ask these collectors what happened in 2020. How many of them were actually, you know, old schoolers that were up in arms about it because they're like, flippers are ruining my hobby because now I can't afford anything. So that's just the way that I look at it. I don't feel like a majority of the people that are buying and selling cards of the younger age, I don't feel like the majority is in this for a long time hobby to be a collector. I'm not trying to sound like the negative person in the room, but that's just my observation. And I might be way off, but that's just tends to be what I see. And somebody else may see it completely different, and that's fine.
Sheesh, Steve just in here.
Now Steve, would you
5 levels?
You made me.
Pokemon. So Pokemon is more collectible than sports cards, correct? At this point,
I would say
definitely.
So in 5 to 10 years, is Pokemon 50% of the hobby? So they come out with new sets all the time, and people chase everything.
I mean, I think at that point, you're just talking about card collecting rather than sports card collecting.
But going back to what Dustin was saying with nostalgia, these people that are young, most of the time you hit college, you get away from it, and then you come back into it later in life. And they already have that instilled in them more Pokemon than they do sports cards.
Yeah,
a lot of
it's
these
a
people.
lot more Pokemon. I mean, the fact they don't have serial numbered cards and they have 50 new sets that come out every day. I guess the one thing I worry about with Pokemon going back, starting a couple years ago, is just overkill. You know, do people just get finally tired of all of the damn sets? I mean, they're facing it now. Neo would know better than me, but with, what is it, Scarlet and Violet? There's kind of a little bit of like overkill, a little bit of a feel of like, you know, not, it's just, it hasn't been like trucking along the same way as it was, but Neo would probably know better than me.
No, you're right. But that being said, I still have stacks of Pokemon cases sitting right there
Yeah.
that I feel pretty good about for what Ham was just talking about. Like all
Right.
these 10 to young 20-year-olds that are heavy in the Pokemon now, and then maybe they all dip away from it for about 5 or 10 years. And then they come back in their 30s, like you were talking about earlier, Dustin, and goes, oh man, I really remember when I used to be big into Pokemon back in the Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield era. I really want to rip some of those boxes. Kind of like what happened to us or me. You know, I'll use me as an example. It was really cool ripping Marvel cards when I was a kid for, you know, $50 a box. And then I turned 35, 40 years old, had money to burn, and said, oh, let me go back in time and rip some of those Marvel card boxes. Except now they're, you know, all of a sudden the supply gets eaten up real quick. And now they're $500, $600, $700 a box. Because that time's kind of gone on. So I could see something similar like that happening. I know we're talking about Pokemon versus sports cards here, but there could be a similar thing. You know, what was one of the hottest things at the show? 90s inserts and refractors.
Oh, yeah.
We get to a time 20, 30 years from now that it's like, oh, man, I can't wait to get that My House Luca Optic Hollow. I'd rather have that than his rookie card because it was a short printed insert or something like that. You know what I mean? Is there a day
I think
when people are chasing weird inserts that right now you open a pack? Because what do we do right now? You open a pack and you get some random insert of, I don't know, let's say Giannis, and all what could be an all-time great player. It could be a rare insert, but it's not a Kaboom or a Downtown, so they get it and they're like, whatever, you know, and move on to the next thing. But is that going to be one of those things that in 30 years everyone's chasing 2020 low pop inserts? I mean, who knows?
I think it's going to be Prism. I think that's going to be one of them. I mean, maybe Topps Chrome, obviously that's going to still be around and be very popular, but I think there's going to be kind of especially if Panini fades a little bit and loses the licenses and all of that stuff. I think it's going to be that 2012 to, you know, whatever it is, 2023 or 4 or whatever. I think I'm not saying everything, every player, all that, but I think there's going to be some, you know, because that's what everyone has been chasing for a decade. So it'll be interesting.
But there also has to be some rarity tied to it. Like when we talk about the 90s inserts, I mean, realistically, it's not all of them. It's the ones that are rare and they got to have some sort of decent grade on them. They can't just be shit grade. I mean, you know firsthand, because you had that Michael Jordan Scoring Kings. First of all, it's Michael Jordan, so it's going to be the most expensive one. Second of all, what were the pack odds on that?
Yeah, they were like one, I think you got like one Scoring King per case or something.
Yeah, so that's a case hit. So you're comparing that to today's Kaboom. So, you know, that's a case hit, and it's graded in an 8.5 that you have, runs a value of about $900. So, again, it's going to be rarity. It's not just going to be a My House out of a pack of Optic or something. It's going to be rare cards that are in good condition and things like that. When you start talking about things like Scoring Kings, you are talking about Downtowns, you are talking about Kabooms. So it's just the players that we relate to. So people are buying Kabooms and Downtowns and whatever the other one is that we don't talk about that much. What's the third one? There's another one. Anyway, those are expensive now, like really expensive now. So, you know, if people get nostalgic about them 20 years from now, is it going to drive the price up? There's going to have to be a decline between now and then, you know, which means it's not a good time to have them now. So I don't know if you just relate it along the same lines of the Michael Jordan Scoring Kings that you own and sold. That's just kind of, I just think that's a good comparison.
Also, Hobby News Daily is comparing Pokemon and Stranger Things. That's the biggest like apples to oranges comparison ever. Pokemon is a 25-year-old trading card game. Stranger Things has got 5 sets out, or 5 or 6 sets out. So
listen, you two can have your war between your two.
Yeah,
you don't need to bring that into my chat.
I know that was like throwing the bait out and looking for something.
Yeah, I look forward to multiple response videos from both of you. We'll go ahead and wrap this up here because we're all tired and we all have to go back to work tomorrow. I took today off as a recovery day, so but
I meant to
have
go
an early morning tomorrow. I think most of us do in some way, shape, or form. So thanks, gents, for hopping together. Chat, you were spectacular tonight. You notice 0 complaints about falling behind on keeping up with chat.
Right.
I mean,
Hey, I was going to say I was going to show that business card if you got enough likes or if anybody wanted to see it. If anybody's been watching my videos and I've been holding out showing you the business card with the autograph on it.
I didn't even see it because you got it after we split up.
Oh, you didn't see it? You didn't see it in the picture or anything?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
It's just a business, just an old, tattered, beat-up business card. It's not even a business card of anybody famous.
Do you want to show it or not? If not, you can show it backstage if you want to save it for your video.
No, I'll show it because people who hung around this long in the live stream can see it, and then I will. I'll still put it in the video. Huh?
Jason called you out there, Neo.
For what?
Yeah, it's not hard to handle chat when you don't respond to.
There's a glare. Anyway, on the front of this business card is an autograph. Lou Alcindor.
He seems important.
It's signed to Lou Alcindor. So
I don't know. It looks like it's running off there a little bit, Steve.
That's all right. Everybody's
jeez.
But everybody was getting their Kareem Abdul-Jabbar autographs at the show, and they had to actually pay extra to get the name Kareem on there.
Yep.
This is he'll never sign this name again, I bet you, even if you paid him to. So I just thought that was a cool, unique pickup to add. Don't see him every day. Like, it's the only one I saw at the show. I saw an 8x10, an old or magazine cover or something, and I saw this, and I asked all the other dealers that were selling cut autos and stuff if they had any, and they were like, "No, we wish we did." So I thought that was
Chat was not ignored Cards and Comics. I'm just not like Dustin where I have to pull up every little single.
Oh no, not every. He pulled up about 8% of the chat, so it's not hard to run chat when you skip over 800 messages.
Was there any complaints in chat? No.
Well, we just do that.
Right there's one.
We do that.
Doesn't count.
Cards and
Comics. I don't know if you saw my pickups video today, but look what I ended up with in my possession.
Oh yeah.
He walked up to me with this, and I was like, not out of my price range, and then I ended up with it anyway.
Trigger Finger doesn't sign his Trigger Finger. He signs as Darth Finger with his Darth Vader mask.
All right, gentlemen, I'm ending this. Otherwise, we'll just keep going well into the night, and we're all tired.
Let's ignore the chat some more and go off. All right.
I will. That's right. All right, boys and girls, we will catch you on the next one. Go check out Sports Card Dad and his 75 sponsorships. I'm sure he's got some new ones for his post-national. Check out Corporate Steve. He's completely flipped the script on us. He is working for the man now. I saw him get all sorts
of
I saw you get all sorts of influencer privileges this week. Don't even talk about it. You got
I didn't collect anything. What are you talking about?
Lines, you got corporate badges.
You thought
Steve I haven't seen his interview yet.
Look, just because everybody that I got to give to Mark, my giveaway winner, decided they wanted to give me something too. It's not my fault.
That. We all know.
That should be an example for everybody. Make sure you reach out to your sponsor and make sure you're there when they give it to them, so they'll give you one too.
We went back to Mr. Minty, and he went to give me another. We walked by Mr. Minty again, and he went to give me another kit. And I was like, "Dude, you gave it to me already." He was like, "No, I didn't." I said, "Yeah, you were really busy and working, but your assistant handed me two. One for
Corporate Steve's Pro.
I gave it back to him. I said, I'm not going to take it. Did I, Mike?
Yep.
I said, you already gave it to me. He goes, really? I did? I don't even remember.
I saw that kid on your eBay page. What are you talking about?
Which kid?
Kit. I saw that Mr. kid on your eBay page. You already
Oh, no, I haven't opened yet.
I know. You sold it sealed. I saw.
And Dustin gave me the hat.
Corporate Steve. You got the badge and everything.
Michael Ham got me the badge.
Yeah, I got him the badge.
See, it's all about having the right friends. Then I don't have to do anything myself. I just
Steve
use
does
you
it
guys.
You know
anyway,
why?
so that
'Cause
he
you
can get-
influence them.
everything else is given to him.
Yeah. I get all the good friends, so
Hey,
then I just do everything. to me.
hey, there's a good saying: "Who you know is where you go."
That's
all about that, baby.
You're not wrong there. That's for sure. One on that one before we give people content to hit pieces with. Later, everybody.
Reaction videos.
See ya.
Yep, for days.